going to get into exactly what we're doing here today. I'm going to give a few people a little bit more time to jump on the live stream. We're trying something different today as we work on a software update and a hardware update. So we've just got to wait a little bit, maybe a few more seconds. As you can see, I'm trying to talk to fill in the space right now before we start the official part of the show. But boy, Lise, that little countdown where I had to shut up for 5 seconds was like the hardest thing for me to do in my entire life.
It's true. I was sending my thoughts to you through the atmosphere going,
I know.
wow, this is a new deal for us because typically we're chatty Cathy's right up until the moment of launch on the show. But hello everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Rebel Rundown for Wednesday, May 28th. It is great to have you here.
All right. I think that's enough. I think we've waited long enough. Let's get into what's happening here. So, as I said, I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm joined by my friend, my colleague, my partner in adventures, Lise Merle in Regina, Saskatchewan. Lise, how's it going?
Well, today couldn't be better, Sheila Gunn Reid. I'm still recovering from last week, and thanks so much to our friend David Menzies for filling in for me last Wednesday. We had April Hutchison in Regina, Saskatchewan for a couple days to do an event, and it was just amazing. The event was just amazing, and we have the Rebel News emergency town hall coming up in Regina next Monday. So I'm a spicy tamale because I got so many things happening and I'm just so excited. So yeah, that's how it's going. How are you, my beloved Sheila Gunn Reid?
Oh, I'm doing great. I want to warn everybody that on this the Wednesday version of Rebel Roundup, we are going to have technical difficulties, delays, chaos. It's going to be a little messy, but that's what we have to do because the people want to show, and we are darn well going to give it to them while we're dealing with a software and hardware update. I realize my mic is like 25 to 50% lower than Lisa's, but hopefully people can bear with us as we deal with that. This is the Rebel Roundup. It's our news and opinion show. It's normally daily. We had to cancel the show yesterday because we were dealing with technical difficulties. We just didn't think that we could pull it off yesterday. We're doing our best today. We want to hear from you. If you're watching us on Rumble, thank you for bearing with us.
Mhm.
As always, if you want to support the work that we do on Rumble, you can leave a Rumble rant. That's our paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we are obligating ourselves to read it on air, but we more often than not make time for the chats that fall under that bar. If you are watching us on the censorship platform of YouTube, we are recently remonetized over there. Lord only knows how long that's going to last. If you want to leave us some support while you still can, you can leave a super chat. The same rules apply over the $5 US cutoff. We're reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our best. But you can also do something after the fact. It's a paid chat on YouTube. It's called a super thanks. So if you didn't get an opportunity to support us while we were live, you can do that after the fact on the recorded version of the stream. I think that's it. You mentioned the Rebel News emergency town hall. That's June 2nd in Regina. It's at the Turnvey Center. Is that right?
Turvey Center. Yeah,
Turvey.
Turvey Center. Yep.
Tickets are $5. If you are thinking about getting a ticket, don't think, just do. It's only $5, and we are going to sell out. So go to donegetingscrewed.com. Our events in Edmonton and Calgary were roaring successes. People were able to hear different viewpoints on separatism, sovereignty, how we got here, what we do next, and ask questions of the speakers. We hope to do the same in Regina. Um, and it's not a place where there's only one viewpoint. There are a bunch of different ideas about how best to move forward, either in Confederation or outside of it. And we're going to be a place to have that conversation because there's a lot of shut uppery going on from the establishment and the media class, and we're having none of it.
Yeah, you know how Rebel News reacts when they tell us to sit down and be quiet as we stand
Yeah.
up and start yelling, and that's exactly what we're going to be. That's exactly what we're going to be doing in Regina next Monday evening at the Turvey Convention Center in the far north end of Regina, and I just can't wait to have these conversations with my Saskies, because obviously there is a feeling of deep resentment, and we're going to talk about all of the different ways that we could maybe change things for the better for the people of Saskatchewan. So see you Monday night, June 2nd, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
at the Turvey Center. Go to donegettingscrewed.com to get your tickets. There's still a couple left.
Yeah, and we'll see you there. We'll both see you there. It's
Yeah.
going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot fix the problem with Confederation unless there is an or else.
Right.
And it's time to decide what exactly that or else is. Now, speaking of Confederation, yesterday was the throne speech was delivered by King Charles, who I simply hope does not destroy the monarchy before his much more level-headed son and his lovely wife take over the place. But I'm not sure, given how he started off the speech from the throne yesterday, I'm not sure that he's going to do what I'm asking him to do. So he started delivering the throne speech with a land acknowledgement. Let's watch this.
Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity, and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and the Anishinaabe people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation, while continuing to deepen my own understanding. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. This is my 20th visit to Canada, spread over the course of more than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, every time I come to Canada, a little more of Canada seeps into my bloodstream, and from there, straight to my heart. I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful.
Okay. Well, look at Mark Carney on his little court jester chair there, just sitting there cross-legged, tuned into but Sheila, I can't stand this. Like, I literally
know.
can't stand this. The pomp, the circumstance, the protocols, the seating charts, the ways in which the government would have had to bend over backwards to make this visit possible is just such a kick in the teeth to everyday working Canadians who are struggling to survive in this circumstance. Like, what I get from that is those are the rulers, and anybody not in that room is the slave. And I just hate everything about it. I just hate everything about it. It's so gross and pretentious.
Like, I'm not against the monarchy. I just hope that the king doesn't destroy it with his climate change nonsense and his woke nonsense. The thing about Queen Elizabeth was she was never complain, never explain. That was her thing.
Right. And so neutral all the time, across the board,
aloof,
on everything.
above
Yes.
it all, above
Yes.
it all. You were supposed to be the stable thing that united everybody.
Yeah.
And a land acknowledgement is in itself divisive, because it points to two different versions of Canada, or two different peoples of Canada instead
Right.
of Canadians.
Right. And look at the genocidal colonizer up on the throne there, acknowledging the
Yeah,
people
if we follow
that
the language of the left, for sure.
yeah, acknowledging the people that were enslaved and genocided. Look at this. I mean, it's the disconnect is unreal. But as with anything, if it starts with a land acknowledgement, most Canadians now, I would say, just disregard whatever happens after. So in their attempt to appease, or in their attempt to be woke or to speak the lines or to set the narrative, they actually set King Charles up to look really extraordinarily weak on these issues, obviously.
He's the crown. Like I just, you're the colonizer.
Right.
Do you think that you're going to win the hearts and minds of the people who call you that, quite crazily, by the way,
Right.
by doing a performative self-flagellation land
Yep.
acknowledgement first?
That's
You're
what it is.
supposed to be above this. You're supposed to be the thing that unites all Canadians, and this, by its very definition, is divisive. But
Yes. No, they
keeping-
made Prince Charles participate in a public humiliation ritual right then. And the
Yeah.
thing is, I think that Prince Charles is so far removed from regular everyday people that he didn't even realize that's what he was doing. Like, that's how far. Remember, this is a guy that was best friends with Jimmy Savile. Okay, Jimmy Savile, British pedophile, and it has never had to work a day in his entire life, and he was just meant to lay down and take it in that moment. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's highly embarrassing.
You know, and I'm not against the royals embracing Indigenous culture, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
Like Prince Harry, whom I'm a huge critic of, and him and his crazy wife can just fall off the surface of the earth for all I care. Petulant, spoiled brats. But
Yeah.
he performed a haka when he was in New Zealand. I think he was on military training there.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. You can embrace the Indigenous culture of the countries of the Commonwealth, for sure.
Oh.
I'm for that, but this is not Indigenous culture. This is woke culture.
Well,
And there's a difference.
Well, I saw a video of First Nations drummers performing a drum circle for the king and queen. And I went, oh, okay. Well, here we
That's
have the
okay.
genocidal colonizer, right? And the people that he enslaved performing for his pleasure. And I went, well, which is it? Like, which is it?
Right.
Do we not like this guy for the things that his monarchy did to the First Nations people of Canada, or are we revering him? Because you
Right.
can't have it both ways, and yet they really want it both ways. Because
I can't figure it out. Like, I
Nope.
think the king of the Commonwealth should, of course, embrace the Indigenous cultures of the people of the Commonwealth. But if you are following the language of the left, that man is a genocidal colonizer.
a
And he's there
maniac.
to
Yes.
a maniac.
Yeah.
He's a maniac. And he's there to genocide you. So,
Which is it?
Which is
Pick a
it?
lane.
I know where
Pick a
I am.
lane.
You guys got to do your thing.
Yeah.
Let's keep going, because the performative nonsense did not stop. And for sure, surely this was Carney's people doing this to the king, I think. He says the Canadian government is determined to protect French culture and language through institutions like the CBC. Was this from his preamble or the official throne speech? So if it's the official throne speech, he's just reading the piece of paper that I guess this is the throne speech. So he's just reading the paper that Carney gave him, which is fine, but in special institutions like the CBC.
Okay.
We wouldn't be Canadian without the CBC. All of this stuff is not It's not Canadian culture without the CBC, I guess.
The French language and the Quebec culture are at the heart of the Canadian identity. They define the country that Canadians and I love so much. Canada is a country that respects and celebrates its official languages and Indigenous languages. The government is determined to protect the institutions that bring these cultures and this identity to the world, such as CBC, Radio-Canada. The French language and the Quebec culture are at the heart of the
Okay, that's good. What I think is funny is I don't dispute, in fact, that the French language is at the heart of Canadian culture for some people. And I don't dispute that Indigenous cultures and language are also part of the Canadian social fabric. Of course they are. But if that is true for them, it is certainly true for us Albertans, that our particular dialect and our culture is also distinct and a part of the social fabric of Canada. Except if you mention it to the left and they're like, "Shut up, hillbilly."
Hillbillies. No, I think it's really interesting that England and France have fought 41 wars against each other.
Yeah.
Over thousands of years, the 100 Years' War, the Anglo-France War. These are two countries that have been at odds for thousands of years. And now it's like, well, but French is so very, very important to Canada. Again, pick a lane. Like, is it important or is it not? And if it is important, then what happened to our English history? What happened to the history of Great Britain literally fighting France for thousands of years? It is like, this is just crazy. And just take everything you said about Alberta and do a +1 for Saskatchewan, because obviously,
right, of course,
we have our own
I should just say Westerners. Yeah. I'll just say Westerners.
Yeah.
It goes on because
Excuse me.
It goes on because then it says King Charles, while reopening Parliament, warns that the world is a more uncertain place than any time since the Second World War. Really? That's since 9/11? No?
No.
Korean War? The Cold War? They were going to nuke each other during the Cold War?
Yeah.
Bay of Pigs? None of that? This is more dangerous now? Why? Donald Trump, I guess.
Yep.
Anyways, let's watch this passive-aggressive nonsense.
Yeah.
The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades, is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing.
We must be clear-eyed. The world is more dangerous and uncertain place than at any point since the Second World War. Canada is facing challenges that are unprecedented in our lifetimes.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity, an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War.
Oh, the Green Reset.
Confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones.
Gaza?
Okay.
Opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians.
You know what the worst part is? This stuff was written by Mark Carney's people, and they
Yeah.
used the king
As a puppet. As a puppet. This is a puppet king that's speaking to us, Canada.
Well, that's the thing. The king or the GG, they read the script that's given to them, and that's fine. But I just feel like this is so, like, it's sure, it's nice to have the king here, but to have used this very important time in our history to have the king here to take all kinds of swipes at the Americans, like use his mouth
Mhm.
like he's a ventriloquist dummy, to take all these swipes at the Americans and talk about rewriting our economy and this and that. It's so unpalatable.
and absolve themselves from their own participation in the unprecedented challenges that the country is facing. The
Right.
reason Canada is facing unprecedented challenges is because of the decisions of the actual government that gave him that little pamphlet to read. Like how can they not acknowledge their own participation in this and their complicity in this, Sheila? Like, this to me is performative garbage, and it maddens me. Like, I don't think that it's good that Prince Charles is visiting Canada, because you know who's going to pay for that? You and I and everybody watching just paid for this trip for Prince Charles, who is a green world advocate, flying over on a private Airbus. Flying over on a 300-seat or a customized Airbus to Canada while he preaches to the rest of us that we shouldn't use fossil fuels. I don't want him here. And to be completely honest, in the new country, I don't believe that we're going to have to abide by this.
I miss the Queen so much.
Yeah, me too.
I miss her so much.
But yeah, and you know what else has got me thinking is that Mark Carney's brother is a super high-ranking official at Kensington Palace. This is Prince William and Princess Kate's royal house. So Kensington Palace.
How do you think we got the king to come?
Right? It's because of those connections. So we're never going to be free of this level of crazy influence. Like, what we just saw was a puppet king doing a performative art piece for the Liberal Party of Canada, and that's not their role. And because this sets an ugly precedent for what the king is supposed to do in Canada. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
Well,
not one bit. Not one bit.
Here's like that, and then like it's just I've put this squarely around the necks of the Liberals, right? Like, because they had this opportunity. Like, it's a big deal for a lot of Canadians to have the king here. I like the royalty. I'm not a fan of the king. My daughter is my youngest is quite the monarchist. But they had the opportunity to not humiliate the king with this nonsense, or to be a little less partisan and take all these cheap shots at the Americans and use the mouth of the king to do it. I just think it's so
déclassé.
The right word?
Yes, déclassé. Yes. Yeah, tacky. Yeah. Unbecoming, I do believe that they would call it. But it is tacky, and it is an outrage when you consider how much money that just cost the Canadian taxpayer when nobody is doing well because of Liberal policies. It's an outrage. It's an outrage. It's a gross outrage.
It's an opportunity for Mark Carney to show off and show like what a well-connected dude he is, right?
Without question. That's what you hit that right on the head, Sheila. This wasn't about solidifying Canada's ties to the monarchy. This was a show of force by Team Carney to show how many relationships, high-level relationships he has. But again, with those high-level relationships, like there are a certain segment of the population who just believe that the British royal family is full of perverts and privileged lunatics, and Mark Carney is one of them. You know, if you're going to lump the royal family in with that crowd, then you're also have to lump Mark Carney in with that crowd. We saw the pictures of him with Ghislaine Maxwell, with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, we saw them. So these are the people that we want to be influenced by. These are the people that we want to take our orders from. Canada, I would say we're better than that. The people of Canada are better than that. They deserve better.
King Charles says Canada will protect its sovereignty. And again, this is King Charles reading the words that Mark Carney wrote for him, stealing the Conservatives' ideas, saying it's going to protect its sovereignty by investing the country's armed forces and boosting its defense industry by joining the Rearm Europe program. We're rearming Europe?
What?
Wait,
what?
Our soldiers are sharing sleeping bags, and they don't have Kevlar vests and helmets when they get deployed to Latvia, which is adjacent to a war zone. But it's okay, because we're going to make sure that Ukraine has everything that they need.
The government will protect Canada's sovereignty by rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces. It will boost Canada's defense industry by joining Rearm Europe to invest in transatlantic security with Canada's European partners. And it will invest to strengthen its presence in the North, as this region, which is an integral part of Canada, faces new threats. The government will protect.
Okay, so we're committing to this military partnership with the European Union. We're not meeting our NATO obligations.
Well, and far be it from me to point out, we aren't Europe. We are not Europe. We are across the ocean from Europe, and for so many old stock Canadians, war and famine and the outcomes of war is the reason we left Europe to begin with. We left Europe, came to Canada, put down roots here, broke the land, made something of ourselves because we were fleeing conflict in Europe. And now we're walking right back into it. I'm not excited as a mother of 4 sons, Sheila, to know that the Canadian government is rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Rearm Europe facade.
The Europeans can do that, by the way. There's lots of them.
Yes.
They can do it. We're already in trouble with the Americans for not meeting our NATO obligations.
Yes.
NATO wants 5%. We're not doing that. Let's start there before we start engaging in this EU program to rearm the Europeans. We cannot defend the homeland. We just can't.
Yes.
And yeah, there's no possible way that we're going to meet this 5% spending target, which is really going to annoy the Americans. But I think that was the whole point of this throne speech, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And coming up, we have another story about what Trump has said about this. And this all relates back to this. So we are paying far less than our required 2% GDP into NATO, to the North Atlantic Treaty, right? North Atlantic Treaty. That's what it is. Yeah. Treaty Organization to protect Europe and Canada in itself. We haven't been making those commitments for the better part of
Forever.
2 decades. Yeah. For the better part of 2 decades. And so to say that we are going to partner with European nations on conflicts that have zero to do with us, Canada, zero to do with us, I think is misguided, and another falsehood by Mark Carney, because we didn't hear this in the campaign, did we? That we were gonna sidle up to European nations to build some sort of defense strategy against existential threats.
He did sort of float that idea that, well, what if we just join the EU? Remember, he said we would just join the EU. Like, we have the longest undefended border with the Americans.
Yeah.
And we used to really like them, and they used to really like us, and we do all this trading with them. The world's largest trading relationship. Maybe we should fix that before we join the EU, where the Brits are trying to leave it.
See,
and are like, we want out.
Like, I thought that he was talking about an economic partnership, like a financial partnership with the EU, where we would adopt the euro and participate in economic partnerships. But this, a military partnership with Europe, I mean, to say that that's that American offer of the 51st state is looking better and better every time they talk.
Did we bring that up? Maybe we can bring that up. The Americans on their Golden Dome.
Yeah.
They made that offer yesterday. Donald Trump did. I don't know if we talked about it. Was it yesterday? Maybe it was Monday, but I wasn't on the stream yesterday because of technical catastrophes. We've got Andrew Scheer, which was very sad because I had a lot of things saved up inside me to talk to Lisa about.
Oh, we miss a day, and it is a sad state of affairs. Yeah.
The videos are flying back and forth between the two of us.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Andrew Scheer, who is the leader in the House right now for the Conservatives. He addresses Parliament following King Charles's speech and slams the Carney Liberals for failing to provide a roadmap to prosperity. Because there's a lot of stuff about how we're going to spend money to rearm Europe for some reason, which has nothing to do with us. Spend money on the CBC, again, largely nothing to do with anybody because nobody watches it.
Mm-hmm.
And the elephant in the room is that nothing mentioned getting us out of this fiscal disaster that we're in. They just used the king to be a mouthpiece, unfortunately, for just division and, I don't know, virtue signaling. But anyways, Andrew Scheer points out the reality of the throne speech.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as you know, it is the convention here that we aren't terribly critical of His Majesty's speech while he's still in the national capital. There will be lots to say tomorrow about the deficiencies and the lack of details, the lack of actually a plan to implement anything that was in there. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out just a few things. I'll elaborate more tomorrow. Yes. So I expect you all to be here for that. It's not good enough to say what you intend to do. You have to provide some kind of a roadmap to get there. And remember, the Prime Minister has set the bar extremely high. He won't be able to get the benefit of the doubt that Justin Trudeau had when he first started in this place after his background. He has promised Canadians that he will resolve the challenges facing Canadians. And yet in that, you won't like what comes next. You won't like what comes next. And yet in these early days, we already see that he can't get results. So he's learning very quickly how to be a liberal politician. Promise a lot and deliver little. That is the track record of this government. The only parts that were even remotely decent in the throne speech, of course, were plagiarized from conservative policies that we've been fighting for and they've been fighting against for a decade. But we know that the Prime Minister is no stranger to copying work from others and passing them off as his own.
That's so funny.
That's what you call a burn. That's what you call a burn. Yes.
He's right. Like there was nothing in the throne speech. I watched it a couple of times because I was like, why are they doing this to the king? They should have been a little less partisan on this stuff, but instead they went full in, knowing, as Andrew Scheer points out, that the Conservatives are going to go easy, at least yesterday, on the throne speech because the king was still in the National Capital Region and the words did come from his mouth, but were not written by him. So they thought, okay, we've got the king. We're going to get him to, a virtue signal and basically give the DEI throne speech. And
that's what it was. The DEI,
throne speech. Yes. And knowing full well that critics are going to go easy, at least for a couple of days, because, like they had the king come. It was just an abuse of the monarchy, what I saw when they were here. And he is Andrew Scheer's right. Like, how are you going to pay for any of this? Things are getting worse and worse and worse. And there's no path to even making it slightly less bad. Like, they're not going to make it, I don't think they're going to make it better, but less bad. There's not even that in the speech from the throne.
No, because and do recall, Canada, we don't have a budget. The Liberal Party and the Liberal government of Canada has not delivered a budget. So we have absolutely no idea how many of our tax dollars are going to any one of their crazy initiatives, including now Rearm Europe. You know how expensive it's going to be for the average Canadian taxpayer to help rearm Europe, to do all of these crazy things that Mark Carney is proposing and announcing like it's a great deal for that. like it's a great deal for Canadians, and like he has a mandate to spend money the way he is. It's crazy. This is just insane.
Yeah. By the way, we might be on the hook to the Americans for more than just 5% of GDP for NATO. Remember that big, like, oh, we've got a defense partnership with the Americans because nature's healing. I'm all of a sudden healing the relationship, Mark Carney, when he went to visit Trump. That's not exactly what went down, depending on who you believe. This was the deal. Canada can either pay $61 billion or join the US as the 51st state and get the the Golden Dome missile defense agreement for free. So Donald Trump wrote, I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system, that it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. He just loves us so much. They are considering the offer. Now, I don't know who's considering the offer. I doubt that Mark Carney, Mr. Elbows Up dude, is considering the offer. But a lot of people are considering a lot of things going forward.
Yes.
About our relationship with the Americans. It's funny that I don't doubt, actually. And I was like, is Trump just joking? I actually don't doubt that he said that to Carney. Like, hey, we're doing this Golden Dome deal. You want to be a part of it? And Carney said, yup. And then Trump probably said $61 billion or 51st state. It's your call. And then Carney goes in front of the media and says, we're joining the Golden Dome deal. Without ever saying it's going to cost us $61 billion that we don't have.
Yeah, and it was either last week or the week before. Trump had hinted at some sort of big announcement between America and Canada. And is the Golden Dome that announcement? Like, is this already a done deal? And Mark Carney is going to shovel 60. But I mean, when you think about it, having the United States of America, which has the world's best military and the world's best defense industry, $61 billion is a pretty great deal.
Yeah, I'm not against it. As a fiscal conservative, I'm not against it. There are a lot of places I think we could save that $61 billion from. I'll start by saving us about 1.5 billion on the CBC, and then I'll just go, we need a Doge. We could find that money.
That's exactly right. And like Canada has already committed $500 billion to the war in Ukraine. So what is another $61 billion between friends? It's really nothing. But if Trump really wanted, like really, really wanted to score a big deal, he would scoop up Alberta and Saskatchewan only as part of the Golden Dome. And so then we would not contribute to the $61 billion cost because we would maybe be part of America. And then we would have the protection of the US military over our heads. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that just be amazing?
Remember when the Chinese spy balloon went over top of Canada and the Canadian government didn't even realize or tell anybody until it was well into Montana? And it's like, would the spy balloon just watching me mow the grass? Like,
yes.
You know?
Yes, it did.
I feel like I just, balloon. Yes. Yeah, the Chinese spy balloon.
Yeah.
As Ben Bankus says, went over top of Canada. And the only time anybody knew or cared about it was when it hit Montana, and the Americans are like,
what on earth is
damn
this
spy balloon here?
What is this thing that is floating overhead? Yeah, Canada wasn't even aware that it was in the air. Like the Canadian military just looked at it and went, "Man, it's probably nothing. It's probably nothing. It's probably
taking
nothing."
Pictures of me pulling weeds in my Crocs. Nobody cares about it till it gets to the Americans, and then it all blows up. Like, where did it come from? How long was it in the air? And then the Canadians are like, it had to go over top of us.
We saw it and just thought that it was a weather balloon. Somebody said it was a weather balloon, so we just ignored it. That's our military and our defense system right there, Canada. AKA, we don't have one. Like, we don't have one. Because if we did have a military defense, that wouldn't have happened. And so many other things wouldn't have happened. A foreign interference in Canada wouldn't be a thing, and we know it is. Our intelligence services are not connected to our military, are not connected to our police services, are not.
Yeah. maybe we wouldn't have had the ISIS butcher who dismembered a person in an ISIS video
Right.
sworn in as a Canadian citizen.
Our immigration services are not connected to our intelligence services, who are not connected to our defense services, who are not. I mean, Canada is a disaster because of 10 years of Liberal rule. And here we are with Trump offering a golden dome. I love the sounds of that. Sounds like an engagement ring, a golden dome.
That, you know what?
Mm.
Nice.
I know. I know.
Uh,
I love me some jewelry, Sheila Gunn-Reid. I
I
love
know
me
you
some
do.
expensive jewelry. And so the golden dome sounds good to me. I like it.
we've got Alexa ripping it up in Ottawa.
Oh, she's so good.
She got Sean Fraser, who's the Minister of Justice who failed at housing, I believe, refuses to answer questions about skyrocketing anti-Semitism in Canada. We have the Israelis issuing travel warnings about Canada.
Yep.
At this point, it feels like something our justice minister should be prepared to answer, but the question came out of the wrong mouth, I guess.
Any comment about the government, the Israeli government publication about the level 2 of safety for Israeli living in or traveling in Canada? Are you going to address the hate march taking place in our streets since more than a year and a half?
Sir, not interested in an interview right now, folks.
Sorry,
I'm just
guys,
on my
we're
way
just
to a
on our
meeting.
way. Well, what would you say to the people, the Jewish people and people from Israel that live here, who live in fear since more than a year and a half? You have nothing to say as the government in place?
What about
Why
you say
you?
about independent journalists such as myself who've been assaulted multiple times by the hate marches?
Yeah, that's right, Chris.
Yeah, Chris
I attempt
Daisy.
to document these things, and I'm attacked regularly by members of these marches. Ottawa police often threaten me with arrest for trying to document them.
How
Yeah,
do you
Chris.
feel that the Hamas, the terrorist organization, thanks your government for the statement issued with Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron? Are you happy that Hamas thanks your government?
So I'm not doing an interview right now. I'm just on my way to a meeting.
Do you think that the liberals should be more accountable by alternative media as independent media? Do you think we should have the rights to report inside of the parliament? So you would not have to do an interview
Running?
while you are walking?
I think it's a fair question. I've been arbitrarily banned from the House of Commons.
Do you think
No
freedom of the
recourse,
press
no
is
way.
important in a democracy? Yes or no? Anything to say about that? Freedom of the press is actually important.
He doesn't even know where he's going.
Thank
Just
you.
trying to get
Have a
away.
good day.
You know what? Every one of her questions were valid questions, and none of them would be asked by the corrupt mainstream media in Canada. None, 0%. She is a little spitfire, Canada. We are lucky to have her on our team.
And here's the thing. Ottawa is wriggling with journalists. It's a snake pit of
Yes.
journalists. They're everywhere. Throw a handful of gravel, you hit 20 journalists. Problem with that is those journalists are subsidized, and that subsidy buys laziness, for starters. They don't have to work for their money.
Right. It buys a free pass to be lazy. Yes.
But it also buys a free pass to the people giving the subsidy, and that's the likes of Sean Fraser, right? So you don't press Sean Fraser because all of a sudden the subsidies will dry up, and we saw them make those threats during the campaign. Today, by the way, is 600 days of captivity for the Israeli hostages still held by Gaza. My God. The Israeli government is issuing travel warnings about Canada. There are hate marches on the street constantly. And yet that same subsidized media will go after the one media outlet asking the questions about the treatment of Jews in Canada and call us far-right, neo-Nazi adjacent, Hitlerian, you name it. But they're the ones siding with the people who feel the same way about Israel as the Nazis.
Well, because the mainstream media is being paid to maintain the false narrative that the government sets on their behalf. So if you're part of that corrupt mainstream media, somebody had a line this last weekend that I thought was excellent. When you take the shekels, you get the shackles. And so when you take the money from the federal government, there is a complicit agreement that you are not going to touch certain subjects, and the subjects that you are allowed to touch and report on are going to be handled in a manner that is acceptable to the people that are paying you. Who is the federal government? It is crazy that they have to run sprints around Sean Fraser and his helper there to ask basic questions. But again, none of the questions that Alexa asked there, or Chris Stacey for that matter, were out of line or in any way not part of the conversation that we're having outside of the mainstream media narrative. And they should have been pretty simple to answer. They should have been pretty simple to answer. And that they refuse is such an insult to the people of Canada, because these are questions that the people of Canada want answers to. And by their refusal, they are telling you, the good people of Canada, that you are not worthy of their time or of answers.
A walk and talk doesn't take any more time than a walk, by the way.
Right.
When he's like, oh, I've got a meeting to go to. Okay, great. I'll walk with you. You can answer while we walk. A walk and talk doesn't take any more. Like, it doesn't, you don't have to, I don't know. Maybe Sean Fraser is that dumb that he has to stop and talk because he can't walk and talk at the same time. I guess if that's the argument that he's going to make, okay, have it your way, dealer's choice. But a walk and talk doesn't take any time. A walk and talk does, however, take respect. And Sean Fraser has none of that for the Canadian people.
No, it's gross. It's gross. It's gross privilege is what it is, on full display for everyone. So enjoy.
Yep. It doesn't end, though. Doesn't end, because we've got Bill Blair, who got out of his slippies and put a suit on to go down to the Parliament. Liberal MP Bill Blair, failed police chief of Toronto. If you're wondering why Toronto is so bad, well, it started with Bill Blair, and he failed upward. And so he came to life. They dusted him off, pulled him out of the sarcophagus, and sent him out to the Parliament. And Alexa caught him too. So again, I want to reiterate: these guys are wandering around the streets of Ottawa all the time, unaccosted by the media.
Right.
Any other journalist could be asking these questions. Why is it just Alexa? Because Alexa is not paid by the government. Let's listen to old man Blair avoid a question.
The rise of extremism, because the Israeli government have just issued a level 2 travel warning to Israeli and Jewish people. Are you going to do something with the people who are protesting, the anti-Israel protester, and the rise of extremism here in Canada?
I think the police have the tools that they need to manage that situation, to maintain safety for everybody here in Canada.
Yeah, but the Liberal government wants to bring thousands of unvetted Gazan refugees.
I'm not sure where you're getting that information, ma'am. That's not consistent with what my understanding of the situation is.
What, you're going to bring Gazan refugees, no?
Again, that's not my understanding.
So are you saying that you are renouncing to it now?
No, ma'am. I'm not renouncing anything. What you have just articulated is not my understanding of the situation.
That you're not going to welcome thousands of Gazan refugees from Gaza.
There's always people who are seeking refuge.
Thank you.
Old man Blair's crazy because the Canadian government is being sued because we're not, by refugee claimants, by the way, because we're not taking even more.
Enough. We're not taking enough. Yes.
I just flipped it to the kids in the studio. Might take a little bit because, we're doing this new thing just to get through the day. It's not always going to be like this, viewers at home. We're just trying to get through the day.
Yeah.
But it's from the Canadian government, from the Immigration Ministry, temporary resident visas from Gaza. The 5,000 cap is full. It's closed to new applications for now, but there are lawsuits trying to up that amount. And those applications are not just for one person, they're like family. See that cap 5,000 temporary resident visas? So these are refugee visas. So it's full already, and it was full in 2023, and these are for families, not just for one claimant. Anyway, so Bill Blair is crazy.
But his response is so lazy. Well, that's not my understanding. Well, what is your understanding? Well, that's not my understanding. Well, could you elaborate on what is your understanding? Like laziness personified. But this could also be a situation where this brand new Liberal cabinet doesn't know, like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing because they haven't received direction yet. So that could also be part of this. But yeah, Bill Blair, like what a lazy answer. What a lazy answer.
Yeah, Alexa should just check her bank account to make sure it hasn't been frozen by that old kook.
And if you appreciate Alexa's reporting, guys, do send her some money via Rebel News because you know she is just one of the scrappiest, most resilient street reporters in the country, and she's got no fear, and we just need a lot more women like her in the world. So do support Alexa by supporting Rebel News. She's a treasure.
She's fearless to a fault where it becomes hard to manage. I'm like, that's not safe. You can't do that. Alexa, you don't have security. You can't. Don't go.
She's
you
like,
don't
I'm
have
gonna.
Security.
I'm going.
Don't. And Sheila's saying no. Please don't go. We try not to send her out in harm's way, but harm tends to find her because she's in Quebec and
she's
Antifa
amazing.
runs the show there. Yeah,
she's amazing.
Really fearless. I just don't want to have to call her mom and say that she's been hurt. So
right.
Alexa wasn't done. Because then she got Ahmed Hussein, and he refuses to answer any questions about Israel raising its alert level for travelers heading to Canada. At least Bill Blair answered, honestly. He didn't have an answer, but at least he stopped to talk, which I guess is
what
good,
is this?
I guess.
What is this?
What's happening here?
What
have we stumbled into? Let's watch.
Looks like a pride parade.
Any word, mister, about the Israeli government warning?
No, you're not a real
You-
It's not real news. Leave us alone. It's not real news.
I'm sorry. Do you believe that
Can you leave me
the
alone?
public servant should be accountable?
Leave me alone. Journalists
Do you
should be
believe
accountable.
on
You should have real
the
good-
freedom of press? Do you believe on freedom of the press?
You're not a real journalist. Stop pretending to be one.
What
You're not
do
a
you
real
mean
journalist.
we are not?
You're not.
We are
You're
bringing
not. You're-
politicians accountable.
You're not a real journalist. Rebel News is
So you
not a
don't
real-
believe on freedom of the
You're
press?
not, but you're not press.
I'm
You-
press.
You are not.
Yeah, I
You're
do.
not. You're registered as a lobbying.
So what is it for you, a journalist?
You're not.
What is
A
it
me-
for you, a journalist?
A non-partisan media house that's recognized.
So you think that CBC is completely
Rebel News
neutral?
is not a
So
journalism
you think that
outlet.
CBC is neutral?
You're not a journalist. Stop
I'm
pretending
asking
to be
you.
one.
Wow.
Sir, where is that accent from again? Like, did I just, I don't, as a native Canadian, like as a fifth generation native Canadian, I don't quite recognize where that accent is from. So if Alexa isn't a real journalist, does that make him not a real Canadian? Is that about right? Is that about right?
And he said she's a registered lobbyist. She's not a registered lobbyist. She's a journalist doing journalism, because being a journalist is a thing you do. It's an action. It's not a guild you join. And if you have to be approved by the government, if you have to be approved by the people you are reporting on, are you a reporter at all, or are you just a repeater?
Well, and Unifor, the union that represents mainstream Canadian journalists, are registered third-party lobbyists.
Right.
So every single person that Ahmad Hussein kikis with on the media side, the corrupt mainstream media, well, then they are all put in that same boat too of not being journalists. If the level of professionalism starts and ends with whether you are registered as a third-party lobbyist. They are all in the same boat. Like, what a weak man. Go hug your friend on the street at the Pride Parade. Look at him.
We don't talk to Rebel News. We have this clip, and I don't know if the kids in the studio will be able to find it, of Ahmed Hussein and Justin Trudeau reading the exact same script about Rebel News in the House of Commons. Hussein did it first, and then Trudeau did it later. And I think one of them called this like Rebel Magazine. Like they had no idea what they were saying, but some staffer had given them the exact same script, and like AI bots, I guess. They just read it. They just read it, didn't believe any of it, or maybe they did, but they're just not bright enough to formulate their own thoughts. Here it is. Watch this, because I watched the House of Commons, and so I caught Hussein doing it, and then I caught Trudeau doing it. I was like, guys, they read the exact same script, and we put it together so that people can see what a bunch of
plagiarizing lunatics these are.
Robots. They're just robots.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives and the member opposites engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
It is disappointing
to see the Conservatives
engage in peddling
rebel media
conspiracy theories. It is disappointing to see the Conservatives engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories. It is disappointing.
That's a great edit.
Engage in peddling rebel media conspiracy theories.
Yeah, a bunch of idiots. They did it like, I don't know, a couple weeks apart, but just grab a piece of paper and read it, because that's all they do. He doesn't even know why he doesn't like us, except that we're prickly.
Well, aside from the fact that Rebel News says things that are inconvenient for them and that they can't defend. This is why they don't like Rebel News, is because you tell Canadians the truth while they're busy whipping up their corrupt mainstream media validation circles. You don't toe that line. Rebel News tells the other side of the story. We're clear and upfront about that. I'm proud of that, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
There's I'm not reason why the federal government doesn't like Rebel News, and it's because of the truth. Oh, are you there, Sheila Gunn Reid?
I'm still here. I'm still here. I mean, I think people can see my bias. I've never ever claimed to be unbiased. The difference between me and the CBC is that I am honest about it. You know where I'm coming from. I don't think that I could or should ever hide it from you. You know the lens through which I'm speaking. CBC, and here's the thing. You don't have to pay for it if you don't want to. This stream's free right now. If you don't have to pay for it. Nobody's forcing you. We are forced to pay for the CBC, who, by the way, have their own little lobby group. Let us never forget Friends of CBC, which is now Friends of Canadian Media, because they CBC-ified all of the Canadian media by giving them all them handouts. I mean, you just pulled it into the mother corp. And yeah, it's good URL. I'll give them that, friends.ca. Help protect Canadian voices in the Canadian media. What they mean is help protect liberal Canadian voices in the Canadian media. They don't care about the rest of us. They don't, when they say diversity, they don't mean diversity of viewpoints ever. I think they mean diversity of like visuality. They don't care about anything else. They don't care that you might have a different point of view at all. But they have their own lobby group, Friends of Canadian Media.
They sure do. So according to Hussein there, that should preclude him from answering any questions from them too.
Right.
If he were to apply the same standard. But then again, we know that there are double standards in Canadian politics and in Canadian media, and he just showed us a perfect example of those double standards.
Karina Gould, you'll remember Karina Gould from her warm embrace of an actual geriatric Nazi in the House of Commons, because these people are so Russia deranged that they were like, yeah, Yaroslav Hunka, he fought the Russians, and it was like,
Whose side was the whose side were the Russians? Yeah. Oof.
So they applauded and brought into the House of Commons and then brought into the Prime Minister's office an SS soldier from Ukraine during
did.
World War II.
Oh, there he is.
Speaking of dusting people off and dragging them out of the sarcophagus, here's Yaroslav Hunka, an actual Nazi, so I'm going to be as unkind as possible. And there's Karina Gould
Holding
saying,
hands.
right on, holding hands with an actual Nazi.
Yep.
Like as close to living demons as you can get. A Nazi.
Yeah.
And she's clutching his hand. And so Alexa thought, perfect lady to ask about the problems with Hamas hate marches, considering Hamas feels the same way about the state of Israel and the Jews as old Yaroslav Hunka does. So let's hear what Karina Gould has to say.
Any statement to say about the recently level 2 warning issue of the Israeli government for the Israeli living in or traveling in Canada? Do you have maybe something to say? Are you going to do something regarding the hate march taking place in our streets since October 7, 2023? Nothing to say? Nothing to say maybe for the diaspora who live in fear since a year and a half? More than that. Nothing to say? Do you think it was ethical to run the campaign on we want to fight the Americans, while the other side, you actually lift the counter tariff quietly that nobody knew about it?
Justice or confed?
Yeah. Do you think it was ethical? You don't regret to have lied to Canadian? You are going to remove 800 jobs at Passport Canada. We already know like the mismanagement of Passport Canada in the past. Do you have any concern about maybe not giving the service that Canadians are paying for? Are you going to do a reform to make sure that the services are well and good for Canadians instead of spending over money for bureaucracy? Thank you. Have a great day.
How do these people sleep at night? Like, how does she sleep at night behaving that way?
Honestly, how would we know if they laid off 800 people at the passport office?
They could literally lay off all of them and there would be no difference in service.
Yeah. I just, like how answer the question. Again, it's a walk and talk. It doesn't take any more time to talk while you walk to where you're going. But as I said, it takes respect, and they have none for the people who it's their job to hold them to account.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
zero accountability, no accountability, no transparency.
We've got a video from NDP Premier Wab Kinew, and look, I probably disagree with Wab Kinew on 90% of everything coming out of his mouth. But he was exactly right on his tone with the Americans. He was like, hey, we don't have to fight. Let's figure out how to get along. We're friends, whatever. As opposed to the elbows up, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Carla
nonsense.
Beck. Carla Beck, Saskatchewan NDP leader. Yep.
Naheed Nenshi, same stuff. When Danielle Smith was like, you know what, I'm going to go talk directly to the Americans. I'm going to talk directly to the American media that Trump watches. We're going to sort this out. What do we get? 10% tariffs. Everybody else, gazillions. And Naheed Nenshi in Alberta, NDP leader, same thing. We're going to punch everybody in the face, elbows up, blah, 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 blah. Carla Beck, same thing. Jagmeet Singh, I almost forgot his name. I can't wait for the day that I do forget his name forever. Same thing, the Liberals, even the Conservatives, they were sort of too adversarial on this stuff. Wab Kinew, he did that little walk and talk video where he talked about like our relationship with the Americans and how it doesn't have to be this way, which is exactly right. And again, I probably disagree with him on all of his other policies, but his tone was right with the Americans. And his tone is exactly right on this from a federalist viewpoint. So let's watch.
But realistically, Alberta has an energy economy and they're looking to find tidewater. So let's work together and send a message that there's a place for that in Canada, and we can do it the right way. We can do that with respect for the environment. We can do that with respect for our national economic interests, and we can do that that's inclusive with Indigenous nations as well. One is the economic opportunity for Western Canada. We're building jobs. We're making investments. The real question is, how do we get the private dollars that are sitting on the sideline right now into the game to bankroll something like that? I think part of it is regulatory certainty, which of course will want regulatory equity in response to that, but also a signal from the federal government that they're going to green light, that they're going to invest, and that they're going to make sure that the environment is such that the private sector can succeed.
These projects of national interest they've asked you for, do you think we're going to get real clarity on those a week from now?
I think we will. And what I would say is that the Western Corridor that includes hitting Northern Tidewater in Manitoba is a nation-building project, but it's also a national unity project. If we can send a message to Alberta, to Saskatchewan, that we're serious about building up the economy and ensuring that they can expand their provincial economies at the same pace that the rest of the country can, I think that's how we bring people together.
Is it a pipeline to that port? Is that what you're
I think a pipe is probably a part of it. For us as Manitobans with clean hydroelectricity, exporting hydropower to Saskatchewan and Alberta is a huge opportunity for us. But if there's a pipe there, you know, we'd be open to hearing the pitches from the private sector. Let's have that conversation. I think the message is we're open for business. There's a window of opportunity right now. How can we work together to build up Canada?
We don't a single word he said there that couldn't have been said by Scott Moe or Daniel Smith.
That's true. That's true. But I have very, very little trust for any NDP politician that is currently onboarding to national unity projects, and especially like, not to put too fine a point on it, but Wab Kinew, we do not need your hydropower because we have coal. Okay, we have coal and we have oil and gas, and we do not need any Manitoba hydropower whatsoever, 0%. So the worst thing that could happen is that in the negotiation of getting our oil and gas through the northern ports in Manitoba is that we give up our ability to produce our own energy in the form of coal, in the form some maybe of nuclear, and in the form of oil and gas. Like, I would not give that up to a left-leaning politician who is all of a sudden, because this was not part of Wab Kinew's election campaign. Okay, we're gonna be nation builders. Here comes Manitoba to save the. I think that the man is an opportunist, and I think that we should view everything he says with a great deal of suspicion. To be completely honest, I've seen too many left-leaning politicians sell out in the end in advance of something that they have happening under the table, and I do not trust him. I do not trust him.
I'm not sure if I trust him either. However, like, just on face value, he is to the right of Mark Carney. And honestly, for the sake of the Conservatives, I hope he is the next leader of the federal NDP.
Yes.
Because he will yank so many business-minded, by the way. You notice how he kept saying, like, look, this needs to be a private sector partner. We need to deal with the regulations that are scaring away the private sector from building these projects. And that is true. There is no West-East pipeline project on the table right now because you cannot get someone to invest in a $35 billion project with the current regulatory regime in Ottawa. You just can't. It's just uncertainty. No one's going to do it. They'll just go to Texas or Nigeria. So he is right. So it's odd. It's disorienting, frankly, to hear an NDP leader keep talking about bringing in private sector investment instead of just getting the government to pay for these things.
And
It's
this
weird.
is and I think this is why we must listen with a scrupulous yes, with a great deal of skepticism, because you know what, even though what he says on the surface sounds really good and sounds really promising, what we aren't hearing is the bait and switch that is 100% happening behind the scenes. So yeah, they're looking for private investment. Yeah, they're looking for companies to come and get this project off the ground. But what they don't tell you is they're going to come in at the very end, take it over, nationalize our oil and gas, and then the only way to make this project profitable is to screw the people of Saskatchewan and Alberta. I'm not trusting that man from Manitoba. I am not.
You just won't trust an NDP politician.
I don't.
I do. I hope he is the next leader of the federal party
Mm.
because it will take, it'll bleed all the progressives who are more reasonable away from Mark Carney. And as far as redemption arc goes, Wab Kinew's redemption arc is akin to Daniel Smith's, just on the left, from sort of a troubled younger individual to the premier of Manitoba. The progressive left would love his story.
Well, he is very, 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 very well placed. His family has, well, his family has placed him in a position where it was impossible for him to fail, because God knows that he was given enough opportunities in his youth to do exactly that with a bunch of domestic violence sort of situations. And he was a former rapper, and he went through all of, like, Wab Kinew is what scares me about young Xavier Trudeau, because if Wab Kinew, former rapper, can become premier of Manitoba, well, then what is in store for Xav Trudeau? So I just do not trust him further than I can spit, and I can only spit about 4 feet. So take that for what you will.
I can't wait till the Trudeau kids and the Carney kids are running what's left of Canada.
I mean, the
And it
tiny
won't be
little
my problem.
Yep, tiny little triangle. Yep.
All
Let them
right.
have it.
We've got one more quick thing to talk about from the Battle for the Birds in Edgewood, BC, and then we've got a couple of chats, and then the Daily Cringe. Battle for the Birds continues on. Drea is back from her 1 week stint in a camper van, wherein I had serious FOMO.
Yeah, me too. I saw it.
And I don't even like ostriches, although these things are very endearing to me now, and I don't like who I am now that I'm staring into the eyes of an ostrich trying to understand what's going on inside of their brains. But the Battle for the Birds is ramping up. So these are 400 birds in Edgewood, BC at Universal Ostrich Farm. They are used in COVID-19 research and avian flu research. Now, the birds were exposed some 5 or so months ago to avian flu. But 5 months later, the flock is fine. So they are no pressing catastrophe for public health because they're fine. And their antibodies are used to find a cure, or at least a treatment for the thing that they were exposed to. And by the way, the young lady, the human who was exposed to avian flu and who recovered, they are using her antibodies to find a cure for avian flu. So if they can use hers, then why can they use the birds? And well, I think it has something to do with that it won't use mRNA technology. But however, the birds are back in court now that Dr. Oz has weighed in and said, I'll take the birds to my ranch, in a very Tiger King sort of move.
The Americans got involved, and this is why this is coming on side of the farmers. It wasn't enough that we've been talking about this for 2 or 3 months already.
Five.
Or is it 5 months? Is it 5 months already? Okay, I stand corrected. These poor ostrich farmers that are looking at their entire livelihood in their beloved flock of ostriches. It took the Americans to get involved for our own government agencies to stand down a little bit. And again,
they didn't really stand down. They haven't really. They still said they're going to kill these birds. They're just trying to find a place to, I guess, put the corpses. Because if they are indeed a danger to public health, you just can't like shovel them into the dump. What are you going to do with 400 dead ostriches?
Right.
Because just
they're not little.
400.
Yes, they're not little.
A heap of 400 dead ostriches, regardless of avian flu, serves as a biohazard vector, right? So Dre is down there at the farm, and now RFK Jr.'s weighed in and said, hey, don't kill these birds. They're not a danger to public health. Let's figure out what we can do as 2 countries working together with these birds. And now the farm has filed an appeal, and they're seeking an emergency conference It's in the Federal Court of Appeal, and I don't know what's going to happen, where it's going to go from here. Umar Sheikh, who was a star of the Convoy Commission, is the lawyer on the file. So what they want is just to be able to test these birds, that like not with a PCR test, and actually test them before you kill them. Find out if they're guilty of having avian flu before you sentence them to death. And that's all they want. Anyway, I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know what happened to Lise. I think we finally encountered the technical difficulties I predicted at the beginning of the show. But if you want to follow Drea's reporting, and I think possibly crowdfund her next trip back to the farm, because if this last ditch legal effort falls through, then it does sound like the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, will be euthanizing these birds one way or another. And she'll be back at the farm to document what happens, because you should not be able to do these horrible misdeeds in darkness. All right. Let's do the chats. We got a couple here. Are we able to bring these up? I don't know. Let's find out. JC Marie gives us $10 and says, is Carney going to wait for the last moment to call the by-election for Pierre? Also, when does he release his assets? Oh, remember he put them in a blind trust, so we're not even supposed to concern ourselves with those things anymore.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
He said he's going to call that by-election fast. I guess we'll see this week. Maybe we'll see. I don't even know. But he said that he would. But again, as Lise just told us about Wab Kinew, only believe a politician as far as you can spit. QXM Quebec X Media says, coffee's on us for the great job. Gives us $5. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. We're doing our best with technical difficulties, as you can tell. I think we just had the two chats, I believe. We've got the Daily Cringe. Elise, I don't know if you've seen this. I found it while we were on air. The Daily Cringe, courtesy of our friends at Libs of TikTok. This is going to make you so mad. You're going to be mad. You're going to get us kicked off of YouTube.
What is this?
Learning nothing from Bud Light. Absolutely nothing. Dylan Mulvaney is now advertising and modeling for a women's perfume, which is described as peak femininity. It's time to boycott Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is disgraceful. Libs of TikTok writes, a man pretending to be a woman lecturing women on femininity. It's beyond parody.
Oh, and in every other world, I would love a perfume bottle that looked like that in every other world. But to see that man holding that perfume bottle as some sort of samey situation. So Jean-Paul Gaultier is a French fashion house. It's been around for decades. But just like the Jaguar debacle, remember a couple months ago, Jaguar came out with their primary colored brand new logo, crazy DEI initiative, and then it tanked. Like, people sold their Jaguars. They don't want to be involved in any of this. So is Jean-Paul Gaultier. You gotta remember that France is beyond parity as it pertains to these issues. There are questions whether the First Lady of France is even a woman. You'll not forget the Olympic scandal. I think that we can just all agree that nothing good is coming out of France these days. Might be that my ancestors were the last best thing to come out of France, and then it all went downhill. Downhill from there. But this is just disgusting. Like, that, it's obvious. That's a man. It is a man. It is a man holding a beautiful perfume bottle, which we will not buy now. Sheila, will we?
Right. No, I'm sticking to Bath and Body Works.
Yeah, me too. Oh yeah, me too. That's our go-to. What is this? Under $10? The whole spritzer bottle? You should see us in our
use it
campers
all
and our
up.
vans. We smell like a dream. We smell like heaven, Sheila Gunn Reid, and that's a true story.
I prefer to smell like baked goods. I feel like the men around me appreciate like a vanilla tending towards a cookie smell.
Always vanilla based. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
every
secret.
time. It is the secret. So I'm gonna try to read this. I gotta put on my goggles here. Okay. So it says radiant, intense, and sensual. The woman celebrated by Gautier is as bright and powerful as the sun. An untamed queen, she radiates unequaled intensity in her new corset, more dazzling than ever. Let your femininity shine through with Gautier. Divine Le Parfum, Jean-Paul Gaultier's new fragrance for women.
It's so funny because Dylan Mulvaney has neither breasts nor hips. So it's so funny that they would pick a completely shapeless man, boy child, to be the face of this. But they couldn't have found a single woman. They couldn't have found a single sensual. Because that's what springs to mind when I think Dylan Mulvaney from his
sensual.
Sensual.
The queen.
Sensual. Yeah, I think Jean-Paul Gaultier made the Madonna corset of the mid 1990s. I remember Madonna had a moment in corsets. Yes, yeah. Same designer, same design house. But yeah, like I said, nothing good is coming out of France. That's really embarrassing for a major design house. That's really embarrassing. But it just goes to show you that this is not over. Where the United States bowed out of all of this insanity, right? Where they just acknowledge that there are only men and women. France is picking up the mantle from where the United States left off. I don't see things slowing down in Canada with Mark Carney and his family's history with these issues. And in the rest of the world, it drags on. We're not done here, Canada. We still must fight this.
In a world full of Dylan Mulvaney's, be an April Hutchinson.
Be an April Hutchinson. She is a treasure. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to check to see if we have anything left on the day. We've got one more chat and then we will wrap up. And I don't know what signing off will look like, but hopefully we'll have everything resolved by tomorrow. Okay, so we've got Cicely Bardwell gives us $20 and says, thanks for being you. It's a cute little avocado emoji, which is like the only fruit that I eat is an avocado.
Thank you, Cicely. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, I think that's it. I think we hit everything on the list. It is almost 12:30 Mountain Time. Lise, thanks so much for joining me today and bearing with us as we try to navigate this strange new world of how we had to broadcast today, just to make sure that we met our obligations to our viewers at home.
Well, Sheila Gunn Reid, it is always my pleasure in Canada. Thanks so much for having me. I will see you guys next Tuesday. Oh, no, correction. I will see you on Monday, Sheila Gunn Reid, in Regina for our emergency town hall in Saskatchewan. And thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been a slice, as always.
Yeah, if you at home want tickets to that, go to donegettingscrewed.com and bookmark that page because we've got other events coming. Please
come see us. Come see us. We want to see your faces. We want to see you in person. Yeah.
Yes. Come say hi. That's June 2nd at the Turvey Center.
Turvey.
I almost said Turnvey. It's Turvey Center. What a fun thing to say.
You said that in a Ben Bankus accent. You did.
I did. I did. Turvey. All right. Efron, Olivia, thanks for bearing with us and working hard to make sure that we had a stream today. I know you've been working on it for days. Hopefully by tomorrow, everything will be fixed and we'll be back to normal. Boy, I would sure appreciate that. Thanks to everybody else who works behind the scenes to put the show together for you at home. Thanks to you guys who pitched in a little bit. And thanks to the rest of you who are loyal watchers and who do us the favor of sharing the stream with a friend. Help us spread the word and get around the internet censorship in these dark Mark Carney days. All right, that's it. See you tomorrow. Everybody at home, Lisa, I'll talk to you later today. And as my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.